2 months, I got you.
The year is 1985. Nintendo drops the entertainment system. Also in 1985, moviegoers were blessed with a timeless cinematic masterpiece. Of course, I'm talking about Police Academy 2, their first assignment. And then shortly after that, it was The Breakfast Club. And in this video, we're going to unpack why this cult classic might be a little bit more crusty than classic. The Breakfast Club is a coming-of-age cinema milestone that some say changed the face of cinema forever. The film's directed by John Hughes, a man responsible also for directing Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Go home.
Which is an incredible film as long as you don't scroll on Wikipedia and search up Matthew Broderick or the guy that played Ed Rooney.
Grace!
The Breakfast Club is the kind of film that people say defined a generation. But I'm here to ask, what generation are we actually talking about? So immediately off the bat, at the start of the movie, we get introduced to the 5 main characters of the film. We've got the jock, and I completely forget his name in the film, so we're just going to call him Coach Bombay. And then you got the criminal, that's John Bender. He's a method actor, and to get into character, he actually visited a school playing John Bender in a classroom. And as they do, they bullied him because he looks cryogenically frozen from the Grease universe. And in the film, he acts tough even though he has a troubled home life. Another thing about him, and we get introduced to his locker in one of the opening scenes in the film. So his locker has a noose, a guillotine, and a homophobic slur at the front that says, if you open this locker, you die.
Cigarette.
Which is an odd thing to write in there, because wouldn't him opening his own locker make him gay? Plot hole. Then we get introduced to the basket case. We know very little about her other than she wears mostly black. She has a lot of dandruff, and she's non-verbal for the first 23 minutes of the film, which all signs point to her possibly having high-functioning autism. I'm not meaning that as a sledge. I'm just saying she's super talented and she's missing a few social cues. Don't at me. Then we've got the dork, Brian Johnson. And then finally, we've got Claire. She's the popular girl. She eats sushi, and she gets harassed for most of this film, even though she is 16, which in the industry, we call that, disgusting! And watching over them is the teacher, and his name's Mr. Vernon. Plus, we've got Carl. He's the janitor in this movie. One of the things we do know about him is he was Man of the Year. Yeah. Now, to cut a long story short, there's 5 teens. They're all in Saturday detention. None of them know each other. Their task is to write an essay on who they think they are. John Bender acts out, they argue, he harasses Claire, they argue some more. But then they go running in the halls, and rather than them all getting caught in the halls, John Bender takes one for the team and gets put into solitary confinement. This is where we learn Mr. Vernon makes
$31,000 a year, and I've got a home.
and wants to beat the living shit out of John Bender.
I'm gonna knock your dick in the dirt.
Took a weird turn, didn't it? Eventually, John Bender escapes through the ceiling, falls down what appears to be a 6-meter drop, is unscathed,
Forgot my pencil.
and harasses Claire. But then Vernon goes away, they get high, they dance. Coach Bombay breaks glass by the only way he knows how, screaming as loud as he can into it. And so after getting high, they all become friends, they trauma dump, and we find out they're all not so different after they all get sad. Each person then reveals why they're in Saturday detention. John Bender set off the fire alarm. Claire skips school to go shopping. Coach Bombay is in Saturday detention because he duct taped a guy's butt cheeks together for his dad's approval, which raises more questions than answers. If you're gonna tape someone's butt cheeks together, would you do it vertically or would you do it horizontally? Just curious. And why is your dad asking you to do this? But then I realized that is probably something my dad would do too. We learned that the reason why the dork is in a Saturday detention is that he brought a gun to school, which is pretty heavy until you realize that he brought a flare gun to school. And this is the moment that breaks the tension, which is strange because I feel like if someone was to bring any kind of gun to a school,
That's cooked eye.
And finally, we learned the basket case is in Saturday detention because she had nothing better to do. I think we can agree that a few of the bits in this film aged like milk in a sauna. This film was made in 1985. Things that do not fly these days are much more prevalent, like homophobic slurs, for example.
You wouldn't know anything about it.
Friend.
So let's watch the mouth, huh?
Or harassing a minor, which I'm not sure if I'm the right person to remind you this, but you shouldn't do that. And I think the fucked up thing about this film is pretty much for the entirety of its duration, Bender harasses Claire, but by the end, they fall in love. so it's all good. Then Coach Bombay falls in love with the basket case only after she gets a makeover for her to look like Claire, which I don't think did her any favors. I feel like the makeover somehow made her look, no offense to her, but it somehow made her look worse. I mean, what was wrong with the dandruff and the overcoat? Like, I don't see a problem with that at all. Might be a personal preference thing on my end, but I don't think that she really needed a makeover. And also the fact that she needed a makeover for Coach Bombay to realize that he was in love with her is a pretty fucked up principle. Even by 1985 standards, it's very superficial. So I guess the message for that subplot is you're only lovable if you're looking like the popular girl, which is subtle. Also, I feel like we're missing some key cornerstones of any school cohort. So we don't get a horse girl, there's no pudgy Greek boy, this sounds weird, there's no black people, there's no kid that shit themselves in year 2 and still hasn't lived that fact down. And I feel like the movie really misses out on proper representation because it doesn't have these kind of people that everyone can identify at a school. Admittedly, there is stuff in the film that does work quite well. I think the soundtrack is excellent. I also find it very ironic that Simple Minds made the titular track Don't You Forget About Me with little to no effort, only for it to become their greatest hit of all time. Also, the characters have a level of authenticity and relatability to them. So I feel like this is the main reason why this film did so well, is a lot of people saw themselves in these characters. And I'm not denying the fact that a movie like this that does have such high relatability is able to become a cult classic because a lot of people see this film and identify parts of the characters within themselves. It's really what made this movie beloved in the first place. Except, of course, if you're a black kid or a horse girl. There's none of them in this film. It has that classic 80s vibe. It's very much a product of its time. But look, I'm here to tell you that nostalgia is a hell of a drug, and when you come down, you realize that the film it's just fine. It's fine. To be honest, a film like Ferris Bueller's Day Off does a much better overall job of the coming of age flick. It's more fun, it has much less forced trauma bonding, and it also has fewer statutory red flags. So that's always a big up in my book. I don't know where to put this, but the fact that I just mentioned Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the school that The Breakfast Club is set in is known as Shermer High School, which is the same school that Ferris Bueller attended. Shermer High School is the original cinematic universe. First of all, I'd rename it. Again, this really frustrates me, but at no point in the film at all do they even attempt. I think they should rename it to the Sad Kids Trauma Dump and Talk Too Much Club. I would also remove the creepy subplots and the harassment that Claire faced. It's just not on. I don't think it would have felt right in 1985, and it certainly doesn't feel right in today's climate. I wouldn't have given the emo girl a makeover. I feel like it sends the wrong message to basket cases, if you want to call them that, or weird people, that they have to change their appearance in order to be desirable to someone. I don't like that message, and I just feel like it came off really cheesy. And finally, and maybe, just maybe, include breakfast. They showed up at 7 a.m. Like, at least have someone eat a bagel, have someone eat a bacon and egg McMuffin, orange juice. Like, it's baffling to me why the film is called The Breakfast Club, and at no point do they even attempt it. They have lunch. I know they have lunch, but it's not called the lunch club. It's called The Breakfast Club. They do weed. They smoke weed. Maybe that's, I wouldn't call that a meal. What else would you call? That's the thing that bonded them together. The weed club is what you could call. I got a funny story. The first time I ever watched The Breakfast Club, I was 8 years old. And I remember watching the beginning of the film, and it was during the dialogue scenes. And when you're 8 years old, I can't process dialogue at the best of times. And I'm 30 years old. So imagine an 8-year-old me trying to process dialogue between two 16-year-old kids. And I remember waking up frightened first thing in the morning and scaring my mum because I had been put in that much of an unconscious sleep that when I woke up, I didn't know who I was. I don't remember where I was. All I remember was that I fell asleep to The Breakfast Club, and all of a sudden I was here in this bed, and it did traumatize me a little bit. So I feel like I have The Breakfast Club to blame for the fact that I still wet the bed for 3 years after that. That felt like an overshare. Anyway, should you watch The Breakfast Club? Yes. However, if you did have the choice, watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off instead. It's much more entertaining. That's it. Don't you